Okay, my outstanding friends, another shocker du jour. I just got this in from a friend, Shrewsbury Books, asking, Roger, what is this? They call it the devil's corkscrew. Well, here's the picture. Alright, and they draw like some kind of a snake or something living down in there, whatever. Now, here's what they say about the devil's corkscrew. It says, in the late 19th century, a fascinating fossil find in what is now northwestern Nebraska intrigued scientists and opened the door to a paleontological mystery that would take years to solve. Well, it didn't get solved. At a site known as Agate Springs Quarries, researchers uncovered enormous spiral-shaped stone structures hidden beneath the earth, towering several feet in height and twisting like ancient augurs into the ground. The strange fossils were unlike anything seen before. Well, they're not just there, but let's go on. Their shape and scale baffled early paleontologists who were left wondering what force of nature or creature could have produced such formations. Very strange looking stuff. Nicknamed the devil's corkscrews, the spirals sparked wild theories. Some believed they were petrified rocks from long-lost trees. Others proposed they were remnants of large aquatic sponges. But as more fossils were found and studied, a clearer picture began to emerge. So they came finding more and more of these. Eventually, scientists discovered these odd-shaped spirals were actually ancient burrows. Now they figured it out. They're ancient burrows. Well, let's look into that. They were carefully engineered underground homes dug by a now extinct genus of land beavers called Paleoastocastor. Oh my God. These creatures roamed the North American plains roughly 20 million years ago during the Miocene epoch. Their spiral-shaped tunnels likely offered shelter from the harsh weather and protection from predators in the open grasslands. Today, these devil's corkscrews stand as one of the most spectacular fossil discoveries on a continent, a vivid reminder of how even the most unusual prehistoric behaviors can be captured and preserved in the rock record. Now, this is what they found. All right? And they didn't find just one or two of these. I have some other shots of these. We're going to look into what I believe this is, knowing mud fossils the way I do. All right, this is a shocker. These are hairs. And that's a mole on the guy's face or something. Those are hairs, and this, you see this texture of this? That's like gnarly, fleshy, a mole, something like that. And these are hairs that are growing up in it. You say, oh, Roger, hairs can't get that big. Oh, yes, they can. You want to see some big ones? Let's take a look at some big ones. You see that? That is a big hair, and that's exactly what it is. This is the skin, and it's eroding, and so is the hair. That's gigantic. I'm not sure what these are. People send these things to me all the time. For years and years they did. This is another hair right over here. I don't know where this is, but I do know that is a hair, and this is the skin. That was the skin where the hair came up through. And this hair looks like this. It's all scruffy looking. This is another hair right here, right next to it. All right. I'm going to show you some other ones in this area. Some of them are just absolutely stunningly large. All right. I'm going to show you some hairs, and they're all like fractured looking, crazy looking. This is a microscopic shot of a hair, and they are overlaid at layers like this, and they appear to grow in blocks. I'm going to show you from gigantic hairs. Each one of them has like a block and a block and a block, and they have all this fibery stuff and scaly looking stuff, and it all twists and mates inside each other. That's why they can bend and twist and do all these kind of things. They don't just snap off. They're very, very entangled. Let's go with that. Okay, this sounds crazy, but I'm not kidding you. You know how erosive skin is. It's just flesh and it just erodes. It's like clay. Well, this is like a mole, and there's hairs growing out of that mole. Now, I can show you one that's substantially larger than that and has turned into more or less stone. And we'll be able to see the hairs, and we'll be able to see the gnarly part, the real tough stuff. But all the skin will have eroded away, and it'll just be sticking up in the ocean. Let's see if we can find that. I'm not kidding you. That's the same thing. That's a mole, and these are the hairs coming out of it. You see the little block of hair? Now look at that closely. That is like cornified skin. You see how gnarly looking it is? That's what you'd call cornified skin. You get that like on your calluses and stuff like that. But you see that's nothing more than a piece of hair. And that's the chunks of hair, as I've shown or will show, they're everywhere. It's just they always thought it was petrified wood. Well, that is not petrified wood, that is a petrified mole. Now, that's a cat and a dog here, and I'm not sure which one's which, but I think that's the cat, and that's the dog, but I don't know. I do know one thing. They're all made segmented so that they can bend and twist and do all this, and these little shardy looking things can keep it together so you have a straight hair and it just doesn't fall apart. You know, you're bending them all the time. And ours are very similar to that, but anyway, one of them's a dog, one of them's a cat. All right, so we know about the mole and the hair going into the mole. Well, what else can we see here? There's a hair that's not in a mole. It's just a normal hair. Oh, Roger, that's impossible. No, it isn't. That is exactly what a hair is. And they get all crinkly like that. And they're coming right out of this flesh. And the reason it's all like that is so that they can bend and twist, and all these little plates can move in amongst each other. And it's just, hair is very tough. For this very tiny little strand of hair, whew. Of course, that's not really what you call very tiny, but it was at one time a strand of hair. It's a little eroded now. You see that's a damaged hair, they would call that. It's not cut clean. And they are not. If you don't cut them right, they just tangle all up like that, just exactly what we see in those giant hairs. Because they have to be really hooked together so that they can bend and twist and do all those fabulous things that, you know, a hair has to do. Stay nice and flow and all that stuff. See, this is just coming out of the ground here, one of these hairs. Look at this thing. Look at all the little layering and stuff, and there's still a little bit of red blood in it at the very low side of the hair, way down at the bottom. It appears to me. There is in this one. I would say that's red blood. All right, there's going to be a certain point where you don't have any more blood, I believe, in the hair. But I'm not even positive about that. This was a long time ago, and these were different creatures, or just they were big, that's for sure. All right, now this is from Science Photo Library, and these are cleanly shaven hairs. But inside of there is just a matrix of stuff. That's why they're pretty tough on razors. Anyway, this is just nothing more than clay. And these, like this one's being ripped out. And, you know, that's from shaving. Probably that wasn't shaven not long ago. This is microscopic, so you still have a little bit of stubble. I don't know if that's the stubble or that was it's been growing since then, but it's twisted over to this side, and you can see it's probably from shaving. It did this. That's a damaged hair. In my mind, I see that as damaged. That's, you can see the guy cut down this way, or whoever it was, and wherever the part of the body that's shaving, I have no idea. But that distance in this level of, this is just the thickness of like a flakes of your skin. So that may even feel semi-clean shaven, who knows. All right, you can clearly see this hair is cleanly shaven, and this hair is not shaven cleanly, it's just torn up, and there's little flakes going everywhere. But you can see all of these little chunks and blocks is what we see in these giant hairs as they erode. And that's so that they can twist and all that stuff, and they're very tough. You need a very sharp blade to get a nice clean cut. And there does appear to be a stalk in the center of all of them, which they do have. Now some of them, I found some hairs, the stalk inside here is eroded away and the outside is preserved. Some other ones I found that the outside is eroded away, and we see this. Two different styles. Let me show you. You see that? These here, the center eroded out of them. These are all hairs as well. And the center has eroded out. And the outside solidified. Now, I can't account for some of the chemistry why these things happen the way they happen. But it's an invasion of a certain type of suspended molecule that finds stability with the outside. And the inside did not find stability and was absorbed, or somehow it turned fluid and just ran out of here. The outside casings appear to have found stability with something. I don't know what. You'd have to do the chemistry on this and figure out why the inside went and the outside didn't. I'm sure it has something to do with the pH of the waters in here and some kind of an enzyme that was right around here. Because this might have been in the testicles or something, right around where your testicles are. I don't know. I have no idea. Something bonded here and ate away the center there. That's all I can tell you. But these are hairs. So that's one style. The other style is the outside just went away and the inside was all crinkly looking. Now this is the opposite. And it might have something to do with salt waters or fresh waters or whatever. It's got something to do with an invasion process. This one, the hair stalk just let go and just eroded away. This is like really very easy to see that's flesh. This is very easy to see this is flesh. All right, and right about here was where the hair started to go down into that flesh. And the outside fell apart, and now you got the inside, and it's this kind of stuff, just like I showed you before. Now, it looks like a guy who had black beard or black hair or something. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe they all turn black like that. I'm not sure. We have to think about that as we're looking into it. What are the different colors of the hair that we're finding? One of them, it looked like it was washed out, but it was white looking. I don't think it was white originally, but I don't know. I really don't know what color this was. I don't see any other color than this marbly looking black and white. And again, I know this was some kind of very invasive chemistry happened here. So that's just up for grabs. Here's another one here. That's the hair stalk coming up. You see these little balls in the walls? See these little balls all over everywhere? Those are in the flesh. And they're little anchors on these. Some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. But there's an anchor strap to all of these. and they hold your skin together so it comes back. You see, they're just everywhere. And there's just bazillions of them. I'm sure most of them have just eroded away. Some of them are just starting to peek out of here. But that is another hair. Oops. All right, this is from Science Photo Library, and this is skin. Your skin is basically made out of clay. These are very fine hairs. You see these little pieces of skin? They're everywhere. They fall off you all day long. That's what your clay is, your outer layer of skin. And it changes from different places in your body. Some places you have cornified skin. It's really tough and has almost like a, look like an alligator type of texture to it. It's tough and got bumps all over it. And this here is fine skin. And it comes totally white too. I mean, absolutely 100% white, and just absolutely 100% gigantic. And as I showed you the other thing with the balls in the walls there, it also has those balls in the walls, and then it has a white skin right across the top. Let me show you that. That would be these here. This is Crowley Lake. These are hairs. Those are hairs. I'm sorry how big the things were. I didn't make the rules. This is what happened. That is a skin. Down below the skin, you get into where you got your flesh. All right, we'll go back and look at it in an anatomical model. I know who this was. This is from Scorbzilla. And he's a dragon, so they don't have any sweat glands in the dragon's beard, There's no sweat glands here. Let me put it that way. I'm just teasing and kidding around. But there is no sweat glands, so it just doesn't have them. And there's animals that don't have sweat glands, and mammals have sweat glands. Now, this color is the red blood, and this color is the vein blood. This is the artery and the vein. And you have that right after you get below the skin layer. This is the fine, powdery skin that you see in, I'm not sure whether this is kaolin clay or not, but this is the type of stuff that you would see if it was kaolin clay. You'd see a very fine powdery stuff like that. And that's what they make fine china out of. Bone china, they call it. Well, it's actually skin china. All right, so don't forget, you got flesh, and above that, the hairs stick up out of the skin, and then you've got the hairs going deep down to a root. And I'm sure they had I'm not positive, but I would assume they have roots similar to every other hair. Now, you notice here, it's eroded the same way. And I do think I could see the balls. You see these little round balls everywhere? I'm pretty sure those are the ball straps, but I can't be positive of that. Almost all of the flesh I have ever seen that is up in the fleshy area that has to turn and doing all this stuff has these balls in it. They're everywhere. The Moki marbles all everywhere. Even they're on Mars, the Mars blueberries, because Mars was not any different than Earth. So we've got that. So we know we got flesh up at the top, and then down into the, we got the skin up at the top, that fluffy white stuff. And they don't have sweat glands in the dragons, I guess. And then you get down here, and you're into where your blood stuff is, the red and the black stuff. And there's a void in the middle. And then you get down to where the red and the black is. And all the hairs stick up through there. All right, remember, let's see. All right, you got your skin, then you get below down here into your fleshy part where you start getting into your different blood. And then below that, I guess, is where the root is. So that accounts for that. We've seen the hair. We've seen how it shatters. Just exactly what we see here. That's shattered up hair. And we saw this, how it's all flaky and the skin is just nothing more than mud, really. And this is a hair with the stalk part left, and the center is eroding. And we have other ones where the center is eroded and the outside is good, as I showed you. And this just shows you the damage. We went through that. And we should see this guy here. I don't know if I showed you this. He's excavating a couple of these sweat glands. He's right in there. And then the hair is right in this area too. There's another one I have here somewhere. Oh, this guy right here. See that guy? He's got a hair shaft. He's got the sweat gland, and he's got the artery or the vein going through there. Let's take a look at that anatomically. That's exactly what it is. And this is quite an old shot. All right, basically he's standing there. He's got the sweat gland coming down. He's got the big artery or vein or whatever it was going this way. And then he's got the hair shaft going right next to him. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And that hair is eroded, but you can still see that it's a hair and there are little lumps here and there. All right, there he is again. Sweat gland, hair, artery, vein, whatever. All right, I do not know where these came from. I got to be honest with you. They came a long time ago. And I just decided I'd do a thing on hair, and they popped up. This is the basement layer of skin. That's a hair. All right, it's starting to erode away. This is the basement layer underneath, which would have been that muddy, fleshy layer. And that's the hair popping up through it. You see? We're talking some fairly good-sized creatures here. Okay, the recent articles from Harvard and Stanford and all of them point to the fact that there was a giant worldwide flood because we almost got hit, or did get hit, by a gigantic thing 4 or 5 times the size of Mount Everest, and it created a disaster, a cataclysmic disaster around the world. So they've all started to agree, and it created and preserved the mud fossils, which were these perfectly preserved soft-bodied creatures, and which Yale talks about. They're all talking about it now. They could say there's no way not to talk about it. So this is Google Earth Structures and Anomalies on Facebook, and I posted up here the other day, and they let it go through, but I was viciously attacked. Now I don't know if they're going to allow this one or not. It's pending now, but I did do this one here, and they allowed it, and boy did they attack. 2,300 comments. And this doesn't go back far. This is only like a week ago. And they're all, there was no worldwide flood. You're a crazy guy. Want to go smoke some more crack, yada, yada, yada. Well, as far as I'm concerned, academia has acquiesced. Yes, there were soft-bodied, perfectly preserved creatures, absolutely. It's just they won't accept the giants and so forth, so they will not allow to look at my evidence. This is the problem that I'm having with academia. They won't allow to look at that hair follicle that's this big. All right, they won't allow to look at my fingertips, gigantic, 3 feet long, DNA tested, certified, still with the fingerprints and a fingernail on it. That's the little pad between the bones. I had to break this off right here to get down inside to get DNA, and I did. This is the nail. It's 3 feet long. And the fingerprints are still very, very easy to see. Right there. That's the fingerprints. That's the nail was right up here. And these are fingerprints starting, and this is what it is. There's sweat pores, and that's the ridges. My thumb is about the same width as that sweat pore. That's that fingerprint ridge, one of these. And this, and again, I went down deep inside here. A lot of blood inside the fingers and toes and so forth. A lot of blood, and I just took almost like raw blood. And he said it was excellent quality. I have the DNA test attached to the other things that I sent, and we're going to be looking at, or we already did look at these crystal caves and so forth and how these formed. There's people walking around down in here. You can't even hardly see them. They're about this big. This is absolutely stunningly enormous and deadly.